Yeah.
10 years in California is you pay people forever. It's
Got
perfect.
it.
So, but also it was very uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
I went the nice route, like, hey, she's great and whatever. And then that just started a,
Yeah.
she immediately found something else. But I think it was in a perfect world. I think with my second and third, we mutually agreed what to say. Handle it that way. In my case, especially the fourth one, I needed it to be out there. Like
Yeah.
I needed to get stuff moving in that
Right.
direction. And it was important to me, to my kids. It was important to everybody. So yeah, that's what I did.
I have a question for you from a logistics celebrity standpoint. What is that process like, right? So you have this personal internal thing happening with you and your spouse. Do
Mm,
you tell your publicist? Do they craft a message? Do you work
mm.
with them? How does that get out into the world?
Well, I was doing a press junket for a movie, and there was a lot of press people there, and
Yeah.
I looked around and I thought, who am I going to tell this to? Maybe the Us Weekly
Mm,
woman here. I think is what I did, and I thought about it, and I think a lot of times it is with the publicist. Sometimes if there's two celebrities, you got to go their publicist, your
yeah.
publicist. But there's a template, I think, which is, hey, love and respect. We did
Yeah.
our best. Things didn't. Okay, we have kids, so we're going to keep
Yeah.
this. I think that's usually how things go. And then because when you read those things, you're like, what's the real story? But
Yeah.
that's really the way to go because it puts it out there and it's respectful and
Yeah.
hopefully that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially if you have kids, right? Because you're a very involved dad, right? So you're at school all the
Yeah.
time, you're doing things. So has it been interesting after the divorce, like at school? Like have people like did you get to set the tone with the way you talked about the divorce so people understand like the
Well,
positive way?
I didn't at first, but then I had to because
Yeah.
the she continued litigation and
Right.
police stuff in front of the kids.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got
Yeah.
to get on top of this. And part of Divorce Party, our podcast, has been
Yeah.
helpful. We've had judges and therapists and
Yeah.
lawyers and people, and it's been helpful to me. It takes a while to figure out what the deal is. Like, why is somebody like that? That'll go away. Everybody
Yeah.
rallies
Yeah.
eventually for the kids. But in this case, that didn't happen. And I will say, like at school, I have a couple of moms at school that are my school wives.
Mm-hmm.
And because at first, especially if there is someone is hostile and contemptuous, they're like there's stuff that you don't know about
Yeah.
school. What keep in the loop about is it teacher's birthday? Is it crazy hair day?
Yeah.
And so I developed on my own because you are concerned anytime there's divorce, like who's gonna, but on my own, I have figured out there's some great moms down there,
Mm,
it's great dads,
yeah.
and keep in the loop with them and keep
Yeah.
our kids in the loop
Yeah.
and then answer all those questions. It's really what's going on. Then the best way to answer questions I recommend at school is to volunteer a lot because
Mm,
then you're in the middle of it. You know what's really going on, and if the other parent, you don't have to tells
yeah.
you a crazy story. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
eventually that's just what you got to do. Get down there
Yeah.
with the kids. So
Yeah, I think that's such a good point because then all the other parents get to know you and they get to know like
mhm.
who you really are as like a human. And
Yeah,
so like if any crazy stories comes up, they can be like,
yeah.
okay, we kind of understand what's happening
Well,
here.
yeah, and also you got to hope. My thing always was, one of the things I discovered she'd done was reach out to everybody in my Rolodex as well as old
Yeah.
people used to call it,
Yeah.
like contacts, like famous people that
Yeah.
I'd worked with and said these kind of heinous things. And my thought when that happened was, well, they're my friends are good people. I'm not going to write my friends and say I know she sent these emails, which she did on my
Yeah.
account. I said, what'll happen? They're good people, good women. Maybe they'll influence her. If she really wants to connect with Rita Wilson or Maria Shriver,
Yeah.
that bad, she's reaching out. Maybe they will be a good influence on her. So I'm not going to get a hold of them or do that. And I
Yeah.
think eventually you look around and people know. You show
Yeah.
up, you do your thing. I am famous. People do know a little bit about me at the school, but you go, well, they're going to know what they see, and I
Yeah.
don't have to. I know I'm a good dad. I know I'm a good
Yeah.
guy, and they'll
You
just
are.
by showing up and doing the work, they're like,
Yeah.
he does show up and do the work. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. You are. You're such a good guy, Tom. I mean,
Yeah,
we
I
appreciate
know.
it. And I think you are. And I think it's and I really love always hearing your perspective as a single dad because I think that there are a lot of dads who are trying really hard right now.
This has been 7 years of dealing with this, and as a great court psychologist who reviewed the case said, "Hey, she's not a psychopath who wants to murder you." I go, "Wow, that's good. She's a sociopath who wants other people to murder you. Like she's a narcissistic sociopath." And so what I did was there's nothing you do about it. There's
Yep.
nothing I can do. There's nothing she will do. You just learn to see patterns. There's no contact. It's not supposed to be at school when I'm at school. Not supposed to. And I do
Yeah.
have found other single dads that are in the exact same place. You think, but especially because you're a man, you're like, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
'Cause it's usually the man that's the narcissistic sociopath. That's
Yep.
true. But
Yeah.
you get to know these other dads. You kind of look around these single dads that are there just killing it, man.
Yeah.
They're doing. It's not just me.
Yeah.
They're doing it, and they're showing up, and they're great dads. And
I
that
love that.
a lot of those are the ones that my kids get to play with their kids
Yeah.
because we have this thing. So you get it. It gets better.
It does. And if any of them are really cute, please send them my way. I'm just
There
gonna
is
say.
a couple cute ones.
Okay, Tom, we
There's
got
a
to
couple.
talk after this.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Tom's gonna be my yenta. Tom, before we let you go, so why do you think what is so empowering about being able to talk about your divorce in a public way?
Because it's what I got. It's something that I'm able to do. I wouldn't have talked about it, if things hadn't gone so far down this road. People could read the paper. She files restraining orders all the time. She shows up outside the house. She filed 3 in the last 2 months. People could read that. I did used to worry, what if they read that? How will that affect my career?
Mm,
Because that's bad.
yeah.
Sometimes. And then after the 12th one, I thought, well, it's all public record. I think people just generally know, because anytime you go down, you get working on this fancy soap opera, and you're like, oh, she filed something. I look around the room. I wonder who saw that, and nobody, it's in my head, and
Yeah.
people are going to do, and eventually people really show the
Yeah.
courts, police, see who they really are, and
Yeah.
so it's always going to happen. So you worry about it, but then you go, I'm gonna just keep being focused on my kids because you could lose
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I do every day. I make a lot of mistakes as a parent, but I try to learn from them, and we spend a lot of time together, a lot of
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and that's I think the best. So
Yeah.
yeah, if this stuff hadn't happened, that divorce announcement way back when would have been it.
Yeah.
And my thing is, once you get divorced, you have no reason to normally to see that person.
Yeah.
And my male friends are like, I'm best friends with my ex-wife, and
Yeah.
they're remarried to somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is sketchy as hell. You're best friends. Are you out of your mind? Don't say that out loud. Jeez.
Yeah, how do you deal because that's triggering. Was that not triggering to have her
Figure.
constantly doing that stuff in
Yeah.
your life? Like what do you do for yourself, like for self-care?
Well, you do have to work on that. And I didn't for a long time. And I got, because anytime I thought I should work out now, and then something came up, the kids needed me, or they act
Yeah.
like they needed me. And then eventually I had a minor stroke about a little over 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I got to do, and I gained so much weight during
Mhm.
COVID. That's my excuse
Yeah.
for the homeschool. I'm like, I got to do this because if I don't, who else is going to be there for these guys? So every day that I live. I
Mm.
live on this is money in the bank for the kids
Yeah.
because you don't know, we all
Yeah.
nobody knows, but you know that every day you get up like, okay, I'm alive today. I'm going to do my thing,
Mm.
and I do work out. I'm also lazy a little bit, like looking for an excuse not to. And my friend Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I worked with last week, said, "Don't think when you wake up, Tom. Don't think. Don't think. Just go work out.
Mm.
Because if you
Mm.
think, you'll think of excuses to
Yeah.
why you aren't going to do it. Maybe you'll put
Yeah.
it off later.
Yeah.
And that don't think thing has been very helpful to me.
Yeah, that's a good person. I would trust his advice on that one, I
He
think.
knows a lot about that,
Yeah, a
doesn't
little bit, a little bit. Well, Tom, we adore you and we
he? Thank
just
you.
think you're a great dad. And I'm gonna look forward to your book on parenting someday because it's
One
coming.
day I will. One
Yeah,
day I will.
I think it's coming. Thank you so much, Tom.